upfront with you that the density number is gonna change and it would go
Well,
higher.
Then that would defeat the purpose.
So, yeah,
In response to a comment somebody raised about what happens if you make this adjustment to the R2. And what I heard Supervisor Leidecky talking about was an overlay ordinance. And so with the overlay ordinance, you could say, this can only apply to lots of 40 acres and greater. I don't want to get that specific, but you could limit how many lots that overlay would apply to so that you don't have all of your R2 suddenly able to develop
Right.
in 6,000
Can only
or
be a
7,000
major
square
road,
foot.
a road of a certain classification.
Yeah.
Can we also
Okay.
write into that
Criteria
things like
for
you
that.
have to have a certain distance from the road and you
Mhm.
have to have a minimum distance, you know, from the front door to the curb and a lot of other things as well.
Well,
to
those
make
would all
it
be
attractive.
design standards that would be included, yeah. But in terms
and a
of
certain
limiting where it applies in the township, that actually is fairly easy to do.
And they have a certain percentage of the total land be left as
Correct.
open space.
that's.
Because that would be the
that's-
compromise, if you're gonna, you know, have smaller lot
Right.
sizes, we should in return
Correct.
get more open space.
That's correct.
Yes, Phil Smith, 205 Gerloff Road, I serve on the Planning Commission. I did want to point out in relation to what Marla was saying here, you know, and add to it. You know, the open space is something that we're looking to preserve, and I think that's a very important thing. And it dovetails very much with the idea that there's an aesthetic that comes with that open space. And I think that two things that I really think are important to point out about this, you know, by, I don't want to say buying into what Mr. Galtrup has said, you know, we're restricting ourselves to houses with front entry garages. So the aesthetic on the interior of that development, using that kind of concept that he's proposing here, is going to produce product, if you will, that everybody's garage is going to be to the front, limited side yards, and those kinds of things, you know, kind of impact the overall look of the development, and the open space in between homes is part of that whole mix. And the other thing is, you know, that development, as it's envisioned by pushing it all down towards the Route 29 side, is basically going to create an aesthetic from the road that everybody in this community is going to have to bear witness to when they go by that development. So, you know, I contend that looking at some alternative product, and I also would suggest to them to go out and look. Toll Brothers is building a development down in Collegeville that uses, you know, attached single-family homes. They're the luxury home builder in America. So I can very comfortably say that, you know, that the product that you offer is really, you know, going to be adjusted to what, you know, we would like to be able to accomplish here if you're willing to work with us. And I think that, you know, just to kind of buy into this idea that everything has to kind of fit to a model that you're kind of sort of steering us towards is really not in the best interest of this township. You know, why is it this, you know, we can't get some relief by using attached dwellings mixed perhaps with the single family homes? Maybe some estate lots on the one end, you know, to relieve some of the congestion would serve the same purpose. I think we need to think sort of outside the box here.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's my husband. My name is Gail Gosser. I live at the 205 Gerloff Road. And my feeling is sort of along with his, that one of the characters about Lower Frederick that I like so much is the fact that we have a variety of mixes of house sizes, styles, big houses next to little houses, clusters, space, and I think the idea of variety and diversity in the community is what gives Lower Frederick its identity. And I think the idea of mixing estate homes, single-family homes, and your twins would help reinforce that interesting nature of our visual identity.
Yeah,
that it?
that's very good.
So I would, I like the idea of mixing twins with singles, bigger lots and smaller lots on that. And if that could even save space and keep the look that we love here.
You don't get as many
David-
houses for
David
every-
cut-
Well, you gotta
Has a
squeeze one off
development
of
in
one,
Lower
add it to another.
Gwinnett, and they're, $470,000 homes, I mean, they're
Yeah.
triplexes. So I contend it's sort of in the hands of the
But the cookie
developer here
cut it
to find a
is
developer
just,
that will do that kind of
no,
project.
it's not what I love about Lower Frederick. I like the fact that Terry Sachs has a beautiful big property. I don't mind the townhouses in Spring Mount, but the variety is what makes it nice. That's my opinion about Lower Frederick. Maybe other people have different feelings.
Yes.
Linda Jansen, Simmons Road. Just one comment. I'm not adverse to, mixing it up or thinking outside of the box. But just one thing that I think the board needs to keep in mind, under our R2 zoning, only single-family detached homes are there. So we would have to make an amendment to your R2 zoning if duplexes or triplexes would be considered.
Are you envisioning an HOA which will do like the yard work, will cut the grass, or, what do you envision the HOA being involved in?
So typically, a homeowners association would maintain the open space, as well as the main road. But then the sidewalks would be maintained by the individual homeowner, and the individual homeowner would also maintain, their yard around their house. I have worked in other places. I have a project currently in Lower Moreland, which is right outside Philadelphia, next to the Bucks County line, where there are lots of this size, and the homeowners association is going to mow and treat the lawn in that particular area. I will say that part of the discussion in doing that in that location was the price point of the homes and the type of buyers that we envision would be purchasing those homes. In that location, it was felt that people wouldn't want to maintain their own lawn, and so in that case, the homeowners association is going to do it. I would feel probably somewhat differently here in Lower Frederick. I think if you're moving to Lower Frederick, even though you're having a small yard, I think you probably still want to mow your own grass. Again, that's just my view. I don't know if other people feel.
It's just 47 lawnmowers you gotta put in that garage.
Yes.
Rachel Hendricks, Aspen Way. Kind of along the lines of what Chuck said, instead of mixing it with attached houses, maybe varying the lot size. So have your minimum at 7, but going, like some of the lots being a little bigger like the original plan and stretching it out a little bit. So that way they might allow for different style homes, maybe a side entrance driveway, or so it doesn't all look the same with the front entrance driveways, like the attached ones would look like. But you're still preserving the single detached homes.
So one thing I can say is we have 2 projects currently that we're selling to Toll Brothers. Toll Brothers was brought up as a potential home builder. And so us as developers, one of the things we do is we work with all the national home builders. We've sold ground to Pulte, Cal Atlantic, Lennar, Toll Brothers. We've talked to WB Homes, but we've not sold WB a project. So I'm happy to reach out to Toll Brothers and get their perspective. I'm not sure whether they would come to this market. Toll Brothers is one where they're very particular in where they go. But certainly happy to talk with them and get their feedback on what they would think in terms of product. I have talked to the other builders that I mentioned. I've talked to Pulte, Lennar, Cal Atlantic, and WB Homes about this particular project as a potential home builder for the site. And so part of the sketch that you see here is in consultation with all of them in terms of what their desires would be. So again, that is part of our work as developers, is trying to do that market analysis and eventually find the right home builder for the project. So I'll reach out to Toll Brothers and have that conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like the idea of having some of them be on the minimum, the smallest size, and some of them being a little bigger, because it also gives people options. They don't all look the same. You have someone come in, maybe has a bigger family, a little older, bigger income, they might want a little extra backyard. They might want that corner piece, just a little bigger. You know, it might be a better selling point.
Sam,
Brian, 11 Zieglerville Road. Going back to the concept of sewage, with regards to some of the properties doing their, what I consider their due diligence in trying to ascertain a easement to put a pumping station adjacent to their property. What is the position of the township in helping, assisting in that? Obviously, it's on them, but it sounds like they're kind of running into a roadblock here. And what would be the position of this supervisors to help with conversations or to assist in ascertaining something like that versus using the grinder pumps, which would only assist their community, not maybe the community at large going forward?
Can I answer that question? Because that was very similar to what I was gonna ask Brian, is that, because I've heard some different things from you. You said you didn't want to put a pumping station on this property because then it would only benefit this property. But don't the grinder pumps just benefit this property as well?
Correct.
that's
Okay,
all.
all right,
You
that's
wouldn't do
okay.
both, you do one or the other.
Right, that's it, but so either one of those would accomplish just this property.
That's
And
correct.
then the other option is a pumping station on not on this property, they could have larger value. But I think there's still 3 options on the table here. I don't see that we're just talking about 2, so I kind of missed something there.
So I'll kind of expand upon that a little bit. You're accurate in your description. One of the reasons to put grinder pumps for each one of these homes is that then there's no township maintenance. There's not that ongoing maintenance of a pump station for one particular project. That was the reason to explore grinder pumps. Something else that would be possible with grinder pumps is that the existing manhole down here at the intersection of Little and 29 that we'd be connecting into, that then feeds gravity down to the circle. Each one of these homes would have a grinder pump with a low pressure main in the road that would come out to here and then connect down. There would be the possibility, if this pipe was sized appropriately, that you could continue up Salford Station with also a low pressure force main, so that homes above could also have grinder pumps and connect into that same force main that we would be proposing to build. Does that make sense?
I understand. I think it's the supervisors decide now, but I mean, I think that there really is a lot of different variability.
That's correct.
It's not just grinder pumps on the lot or a pumping station on somebody else's lot.
That is correct.
There's more options there.
That is correct.
Or a pumping station down at the bridge on Southern Station Road
Yes.
that we would own, just like out at Delphi here. That you could connect to up Southford Station, any of those failing systems that are up there, out Sep Road, you could pick it up. Okay. Yes, Linda?
Linda Jansen, Simmons Road. The problem is with putting a pumping station at the bridge. The infrastructure can only extend to 105 Salford Station Road. That is for local residents, that's the house, the garage with the rainbow on it. Beyond that, it's R1, no infrastructure. And that is even into the R1 area, but it's only allowed to extend a quarter mile. 1,600 or 300 and some odd, 320 feet. So from where R2, or it's village mixed use actually, where the village mixed use stops on Southwood Station Road, and you measure 1,320 feet, it gets you to 105 Southwood Station Road. That's the quarter mile into the rural resource area. So entertaining those options would mean we'd have to rewrite the regional comprehensive plan and rewrite our zoning, because our zoning still says no infrastructure in the R1 area. So it's just something to keep in mind when you keep saying, Sep Road, you can't get to Sep Road,
If
with.
you have failing systems up there and DEP comes in and demands us to go up there, you will go up there. Am I correct, Carol?
Yes.
Okay, do you understand that, Linda?
I
If
understand that.
DEP comes in and you have 5 to 10 failing systems, which they are bad back in there too,
But we
okay?
don't have any failing systems right now.
That's what you're saying.
Well, the
that's what you're
DEP
saying.
also said that. Accordingly, well, maybe we
But
should ask Carol.
there's-
Carol, how many failed systems are there in the township?
Reported cup system.
Well, yes, somebody just said
Reported.
exactly the word,
Clarify.
reported failed systems.
reported.
Nobody's going out there and evaluating the existing systems on a regular basis. The question generally comes to the front when somebody tries to sell a property and they have their system tested, and it will pass the test. That's when this generally comes to the fore. Once in a while, there's a case like, there's a couple cases out there today, where a system is in such bad shape that it came to the fore even without a transfer of property. And we've got one right here right now, a resident that can speak to that. There's another one on Salford Station Road that's been in many of our meetings. But as to how many are out there that are failed right now, I'm not testing them. I'm not testing them. I'll tell you that I've walked up that road and seen some very green grass. So I have a lot of suspicions, but we're not going out there and physically testing private systems. Those usually get tested at times.
We're not going out and looking for people to say, hey,
Yeah.
you have a bad system. It's just that it could happen.
Of course
So,
it could happen, but it
Always
could also.
keep your eyes open and look forward and not
it could-
with blinders
of
on and
course
say,
it could,
this
but-
could happen and we could be in big trouble by running
But
sewer.
I think my point is, with an already strained sewer budget that we have now, the installation of a pumping station in the present day to just serve the 5 homes that are in the village mixed-use area, and I'm sorry, there's only 2 homes. Well, let's see, there's Graders, there's Schmitz, and there's Mrs. Swanson. No, Mrs. Swanson's in R1. So you only have 2 homes, so you go 5 additional homes into that quarter mile. You're looking at a pumping station that I believe at a previous meeting, somebody said it would cost the township approximately $18,000 a year to maintain. Those 7 connections will only total about $4,000. It won't even pay for the maintenance of the pumping station. And according to Mr. Goldthorpe, it sounds like, you could run a line up Salford Station, and if you do have a failed system, and utilize grinder pumps, which are of basically no cost to the township to maintain, the homeowner maintains them. So, and if the DEP does come in and there's a failed system on set, and that you have to run the piping down to connect to those, the larger line on South Station, it could be done with grinder pumps. And also too, the installation of the grinder pump system as opposed to a traditional gravity system
That's
is
fine.
about half.
We've heard this before, and I know, we understand that. I mean, I don't wanna hear this over and over and over again, but
Well,
we've discussed it.
you keep saying to me that I don't understand what I'm talking about, so I'm also explaining to you.
Yes, that's good.
Can't we use gravity for some of those houses on Sulphur Station?
If we put a pump station in, yes,
But these 42 homes, and also we
we
could
go to
be,
that pump station.
Yeah.
So,
plus the other existing
I have
homes
to
there.
say, I've done the math too, and I'm kind of with Linda, is that's a lot of money for 5 houses. I'd like to see a solution that's going to, and this is off the topic of what you're looking at, so apologies to you. But I'd like to see a solution that's gonna address some of the other, we have more failing systems than just on Southwood Station. You talk about Southwood Station Road a lot. I mean, every time someone tries to sell a house, they have to put in a new septic system. We have one person who's gotta pay $40,000 because, it won't pass inspection. It's functioning, but it won't pass inspection. That's a whole nother issue than a failing system. Maybe it's the same issue. So what is a solution that's gonna be a broader solution for some of those houses, like where you live, Brian, and like Cemetery Road and Meng Road, and anyone who lives in that general vicinity who would like to hook in? Is that pumping station gonna help that?
The Act 537 plan addressed a pumping station close to Zieglerville Road along the Goshen Hopping Creek. And that would pick up some of the problem homes along Zieglerville Road, as well as address the problem homes along Southwood Station Road, and address this
Now,
development.
could you go into the road and hit Cemetery, cause that's downhill?
No, cemetery,
Out here on Delphi Road, you mean?
yeah, the cemetery would go to Delphi.
Yes, the
Yeah.
pumping station.
So cemetery is a matter of coming off of 29, gravel
Okay.
pike at Main Road, and going up
Cause
cemetery.
that's that whole area that needs to hook in.
So that's
Mm.
actually, in the Act 537 plan, that was the third project essentially. There was, in the Act 537 planning, there was the construction of the Fulmer Riverside Collection Extension first. Then this project, I believe, was second, and cemetery would have been third on the list, in that 537 plan. That doesn't mean we can't look at the other areas, but that's how it was laid out in the planning years ago.
And Cemetery Lane would have had sewer, but the people did not wanna spend the money
I
because
think I'd like it now.
we gave them a bid to come across 29 and go
Yeah.
up 3 or 4
Yeah.
houses up there for $27,000 at that time. And they turned it down, that the people couldn't afford it. Am I correct, Ernie?
Yes.
We gave a bid to do that.
Yeah, but the problem now is DEP has changed their standards and now people can't sell their houses anymore. But anyway, we're off topic, but I have to agree with, Linda, that I'd like to see a larger solution, not just have a pump station just serve 50 homes or 45 homes. That seems like a huge expense.
Yes, pump station further down the watershed that could encompass more would be beneficial for long-term planning and goals.
So I think we've heard from the developer and from the audience. There's no decision that you're gonna hear this evening.
You have a lot of input.
You have the input that you need to come up with some other alternative plan. I don't think you heard that anybody likes this one.
You're getting closer. You are getting closer.
As far as the next step, what would you like us to do for sanitary sewer? Is there anything left on our side, or?
I think
will
we
the
have to,
township
I think the
decide?
Board of Supervisors has to discuss that with
Yeah.
themselves and have a presentation for, of some sort with the sewer alternatives.
Sure.
That's beyond your,
Absolutely. Would you like us, as far as the next step, to go back to the planning commission with a revised sketch, or would you like us to come back to you folks?
You've got some planning commission here, you've got 1, 2, 3, is it 3 of you are here? What do you- 4? 4. What are you offering?
Well, I would prefer to, Phil Smith, recording secretary of the planning commission, I would prefer that the board of supervisors at this meeting express their concerns so they don't go back and come back with something that's completely foreign to perhaps what we've discussed here tonight. So they get the high points of where your concerns are, and when they develop an alternative to come back to the planning commission, they come back with a viable discussion point rather than just something pulled that doesn't hit the marks that you guys have presented here tonight.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, if you agree, Terry, I think, Chuck, you hit some of the high points, is you're suggesting going a little further up to have some open space in the middle, possibly removing just moving those